Hello guys, in today's video, we are going to present you the top 5 best propane tank gauge available on the market. We made this list on our personal preference and sorted it based on their prices, quality, durability and reputation of the manufacturers. Check out the description to find out their prices and more information. We've included the links in the description below. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe and hit the bell button for the upcoming video notification. So without further ado, let's get started. The number 1 position is dominating by CHAR BROIL Universal Propane Tank Gauge. If you're in the market for the best overall gas gauge for your propane tank, then this just might be the right choice for you. For starters, it is a very large gauge which makes it very easy to read. The scale for this model is simple to see even if you're not right next to it. Another positive about the scales is that they account for the ambient temperature that you're using your propane tanks in. The scales account for the 3 different temperatures which include 100, 70 and 50 degrees days. That way you can get a much more accurate data of how much gas you have regardless of the temperature outside. Something else that really makes this such a good gauge is the size of the scale. Many of its competitors have a much more compact color scale that doesn't pick up slight changes in pressure. This gauge on the other hand has a very large scale that accounts for each small drop in pressure as gas is used, which helps to make it a whole lot more accurate. Since this unit is a bit oversized, it shouldn't come as a surprise that it is quite durable. The casing for the actual gauge is nice and thick, as is the connector. The overall body is also quite thick, making it perfect for anyone that uses their tanks a lot. The only drawback to this oversized design is that you might have a tougher time fitting this gauge into tight spots on smaller grills or in tight RV compartments. If however you have the space to accommodate it, you simply can't beat its quality performance. Moving on to the next at number 2 of GASLAND Propane Gauge. When it comes to finding the right gas gauge for your propane tank, you certainly want to make sure that you are getting a quality product. However, you also most likely don't want to spend a ton of money on something that you will only use on occasion, right? If that is the case, then this is probably going to be a good gauge to get since it works well, but won't cost too much to purchase. As you'd expect, this model is very easy to install. It is also extremely lightweight and quite compact, which makes it a good purchase for smaller space setups. The smaller design doesn't hurt its overall durability, so you shouldn't worry about its breaking down on you at all. The scale of this unit is also quite easy to read. Though it isn't as large as some others out there, it still clearly communicates when you are running low on fuel. You might need to get a closer look to see it, but it still is remarkably accurate for something at this price point. The one thing to keep in mind with this otherwise wonderful unit is that it doesn't account for changes in ambient temperature. It only has one scale, so you need to make sure that you take it into account when you are cooking, no matter if you're using the gauge with your gas grill or your propane tanks for your travel trailer. The number 3 position is held by CAMPLUX Propane Tank Gauge. One of the biggest concerns for folks with smaller setup is space. Since the connection area for their propane tanks and gas line is already tight, adding in a large fuel gauge could be quite problematic. Thankfully, this gauge is available and it is made to be extremely compact, which makes it perfect for smaller spaces on small grills. It is even small enough that it can stay installed under most RV or travel trailer tank covers without too much of an issue. As you would expect with such a compact gauge, this model is also quite compact. This does not, however, affect the durability of the gauge. It is still thick enough to stand up to the test of time even if you utilize your propane tanks often. The fittings are also quite durable in this model, and even though the overall design of this unit is built towards it being as compact as possible, the fittings for the tank and hose are still nice and thick. This helps them to be both easy to connect to and should also give them the ability to last for a good long time. The only real issue with this gauge is that the scale is relatively small. It is still easy to read, but not large enough that you can see it from very far away. As such, you will need to make sure that you are right next to it to get an accurate reading. Thankfully, this shouldn't prove to be too big of an issue since you need to be right at the tank to turn it on anyways. Next at number 4 of CAMCO Propane Gauge Leak Detector. This model is a perfect fit if you want something that is going to be durable and easy to read. While it might cost a bit more upfront than some of the other on our list, it is well worth it in the long run. Perhaps the best thing about the unit is its oversized scale. It is quite easy to read even if you are a good distance away, which makes it great for larger setups. This gauge's scale is also very accurate. The reason for this accuracy is because of two factors. The first is the size of the scale itself. Since it is quite large, the different color zones can be spread out further, which makes for a much more accurate depiction of how much gas is left. This gauge also accounts for the ambient air temperature, which adds to the accuracy of the scale regardless of the weather. The one concern that you need to take into account with this unit is its size. This gauge is quite oversized, which works on to benefits in many ways. As we mentioned earlier, it helps to make the scale more accurate. This large size also helps to make the gauge quite durable, and if however you have a smaller setup, this gauge might not work very well for you. Since it is so large, you might have a tough time fitting it onto tight spaces. Of course, if you can fit it, this model will work very well for you. Finally, at number 5 of GASLAND Propane Tank Gauge. If you have been using the same grill for a long time, then odds are that you're still having your old propane tanks. Well, you might want to get a tank gauge so that you know how much gas you have. You certainly don't want to have to replace your tanks. This is expensive and might mean that you would have to get a whole new gas line as well. If that is your situation, then this gauge or adapter is the right option for you. It has a POL to QCC1 Type 1 adapter, which allows it to hook up to older style tanks with ease, while also taking measurements of how much gas you have left in the tank. This model is also quite compact and lightweight, and this design makes it a good option for any size of setup, even if space is tight. Even though this gauge is on the smaller side, it is still quite durable, especially its fittings. They are made out of corrosion-resistant brass, which means that this scale should last for several years of use. The only thing to keep in mind with this gauge is that, while it is very easy to read, it has a smaller color scale than some others. This might make it seem as though the scale changes very quickly, since the needle doesn't have a lot of room to move. As long as you keep this in mind, however, you shouldn't have any issue utilizing this gauge effectively.